Well, hey everyone. So I was just talking to my nakshatra guru Sandeep, and again he requested me to make a video on a certain activation technique. Very simple activation techniques in Vedic astrology that will help you to make easy predictions. Okay, and you just need to know the basics of astrology. Just know what the house means, what the planet means. Even if you're at level 1 of astrology, which is actually, I would say, just knowing level 1, a person can do miracles. Okay, just knowing level 1 of astrology. And I feel like the more advanced we learn astrology, the more we lose its beauty. The more we learn astrology, go deep into divisional charts and this and that and this dasha and conditional dasha, we kind of lose the simplicity, although it's very important to know the depth. But yeah, just staying at basic level can do wonders. And this will obviously require you to understand your horoscope. And if you need to know what your planetary alignments are, just go to astrologykrs.com, and under shop section, option 5 and below will be all like reports, PDF report, where you'll be able to see your just basic birth chart. Okay. Or if you have your own way, you can just look at it. And also, my God, like there's so many of you, say, oh, now you're wearing a ruby gemstone. How come you're saying that? How come, you're now wearing gemstone and you're not to wear gemstone? What is this? Oh my God. It's like, I just want to. So first of all, number one thing, let's say I'm going to explain what this is. But let's just imagine I don't advocate gemstones for astrological purposes. Okay, great. And I still stand to that point today even. But let's say I am, at some shopping mall. I'm on a vacation. And I'm like, my God, that's a beautiful ring. That's a beautiful stone. Don't you think a human being can actually like stones and just wear them? Do you think we all have to wear stones for astrological purposes only? What if I like gems? I love gems. I've actually been attracted to them because my mom used to wear astrological gems on 3 of her fingers. And I always used to take her panna off, her emerald. It was the most beautiful emerald. I don't know where it went. But she no longer wears it. But from there, fascination started. But if somebody, likes gemstones, they can wear it. Doesn't matter if they're against its certain purposes. That's number one. Number two, this particular thing is a class ring. Okay, this is a class ring. Let me see. Okay, so here, look what it says. I don't know if it can focus it. It says Magha Vedic Academy. See that? MAGA, and then Academy. And then it has my name right there, Kapiel Raaj. It's just a symbolic gesture, and this is like a synthetic stone. You can probably see all the gemstone expert out there. This is like a $50 stone in there. This whole ring was like $197 for me. Took 8 weeks to make it. You can just type in class rings and you'll see this ring on Google Images, and you can see the price. Okay, just type in class rings, large class rings. Just like a symbolic gesture for me opening up my academy, after so many years of procrastination. And I'm like, I'm going to be finishing this academy soon, and all the videos and lessons will be there for future students to come and watch. So it's like a symbolic gesture is nothing. So stop it. I just wasted 3 minutes of my life. Precious 3 minutes. I could have done my breathing yoga. So anyway, so activation technique. I'll give you an example. If you, and this is specifically again for people who know basic houses, planets, okay, even aspects, conjunction, you just need to know these things. So let's say your child is born. Which house represents the firstborn child? It's the 5th house. When a child is born, first of all, look at what the impact is on the 5th house, where the 5th Lord is gone to. So when the child is born, the child will activate those things in your life. If a second child is born, look at what's happening with the 7th house. 7th Lord, what impact is on the 7th house? And you will find this every single time to the T, 100%. When 7th house is in a harsh place, second child activates the 7th house. And usually either people have more quarrels, fights, chick, nagging in their marriage, or if the 7th Lord is beautifully placed, and yet before the second child, you were having some issue, those issues suddenly get resolved and the husband and wife or father and mother kind of like start loving each other. They start prospering. Third child, when the third child is born, it'll impact your divinity. It will impact your ability to have a guru, not have a guru, impact your guru. Like depending upon how the placement of the 9th Lord is, impact in the 9th house, with the birth of the third child, guru's life can be impacted. Or guru's life will be impacted through his own, karmas, but it'll just show that now is the time for something to happen. So these are the basic way of doing things. So for example, you buy a home. As soon as you buy a home, you got to see where's the 4th Lord, what impact is in the 4th house, and those things will start happening. Okay. And you got to be careful about debilitated planets or exalted planets. Be very, very careful. Depending on the degree, depending on the pada, a debilitated planet can actually be extremely strong. Extremely strong, because if you know the basics, well, this may require a little bit of a higher knowledge where you have to know the degree, where the planet is actually debilitated. And if it's outside of those degrees, planet is not debilitated. It's actually doing something else. Saturn is debilitated, right, at 20th degree in Bharani Nakshatra. But then Saturn is exalted in the Vamsha. You got to understand these things. What can be the first impact and what can be the actual result, the significance of that. Sun is debilitated in Libra at 10 degrees. But that doesn't mean Sun is going to be debilitated the entire way. Towards the end part of Libra, Sun is in Vishakha Nakshatra of Indra. Sun is the king, Indra is the king. So it makes the person into a king. So you got to understand these subtle things. But when you buy your first house, you got to just see what's happening and those things will start becoming activated. But I think I've spoken about this before too. So let's say your 4th Lord is in the 9th house. As soon as you buy a property, there will be some opportunity to go on a pilgrimage or foreign lands within that particular year that you buy the house. Sometimes what happens is when somebody buys a house or a property, suddenly they have to move. Suddenly there could be like some better opportunity suddenly came here, like, I can't pass this. Okay, I'll move. And you'll suddenly put the house for sale. You have a surgery. Your 8th house gets activated. Okay, 8th house gets activated. So then you see, where's the 8th Lord? What planet is in the 8th house? What is happening? And then you can see, okay, so when you had surgery, this and this happened. But that's not the whole point. What Sandeep wants me to discuss that with you. What other thing he's saying, telling me, when the first child is born, that means your 5th house is activated. Okay? You can literally start counting 5th house as the first year. 6th house as the second year, 7th house as a third year, 8th house as a 4th year, 5th house as a 9th, or 9th house as a 5th year. And a person's overall life impact can be happening from that point onwards. You can go all the way for 50 years forward. So you don't really always have to look at the ascendant that, oh, so you're 23 years old. That means your 11th house is happening and malefics are there. You were, embarrassed or insulted in an organization, whatever that prediction is. But with the first child, 5th house became active. So look at what the impact is on the 5th house. Those things will happen. Okay. But the 5th house becomes the first year from that point. 6th house becomes the second year, 7th house becomes the third year, and you can keep going in circles. So for example, in the 5th year, Jupiter is sitting in the 9th house, exalted. You're Scorpio ascendant, you had a first child, Jupiter is in the 9th house, exalted. And it's, let's say, receiving the aspect of Sun from the 3rd house or something. Literally, you can say to the individual, if their child is 10 years old, when you were 5, or when your child was 5, you ran into your guru. You went on a pilgrimage, you became religious. At the same time, for your career, you had to travel. And you gained a whole lot. You started becoming a writer and a publisher from the 5th year of your first child's birth. You see? So then, let's say 2nd child is born. 7th house is activated. Why is 7th house's 2nd child is the sibling of the first child? So 5th house is first child. 3rd from the 5th house is the 7th house, which is the younger sibling of the child. Then the 3rd one would be the 9th house. So let's say if the 2nd child is born, that means the 7th house, business and marriage are the most basic known impact of the 7th house. 7th lord is in the 11th house of gains, hopes, wishes, desires. And then you have to look at the fact, is it nicely placed, badly placed? Benefic impact on it, good. Malefic impact on it, bad. Just use that simple thing. No need to complicate your life. Okay? So if 7th lord is in the 11th house, without any impact of benefic or malefic, just by itself, and let's say even if it's neutral, from the birth of the 2nd child, suddenly you'll start to gain of your status. You will start increasing your status. It may happen slow, depending on the planet. It may happen suddenly in a very good form. You'll start fulfilling some of your hopes, wishes, and desires. So from these things, you can see the impact. And the 3rd child, like I said, 3rd child will always 100% somehow impact your relationship with God. Either it'll make it or break it, or maybe keep it neutral. Maybe it'll be a little bit of an increase. You just have to see the impact on it. You got to see, if you know the nakshatras, they'll even help you even more. Let's say, for example, you bought a car. Let's say you bought a car this year. That means your 4th house is activated. 4th house is vehicles and home. That means the moment that you bought that car, the 4th house became activated. And from that moment, you can, if you want to go, what will happen 5 years from now in my life? Well, 4th house is the first year from the moment you bought the car. 5th house would be the 8th house. Look at how the 8th house is placed in a person's horoscope. What planets are there? What aspect is there? Just use malefic, benefic. Stay to the most basics for right now. So this is not like life of the car. Like in 5th year, you repainted your car. It's not that. It's overall life. Just because you bought that car, it simply activated your 4th house. And now the life of the car is progressing. You may have the car for, let's say, 10 years. Okay? So let's say if you have a car for 10 years. So that 10 years, what is happening in your life can be just by looking at 4th house as a first year, 5th house as a second year, 6th house as a third year, 7th house as a 4th year. And let's say you bought a new car. You gave that car back, you bought a new car. Well, guess what happened? you reactivated your fourth house again. So fourth house is again activated. If you get a second car, again, fourth house is again activated. So you can keep reactivating your fourth house. And this is something that I noticed. When somebody has good placed fourth house, and those people, let's say, lease a car, where they lease a car for, let's say, 36 months. In US is common, 36 months or 38 months. That's the easiest. And if you go like to 24 months, you'll pay more. So most people who have good fourth houses and they lease a car, if their fourth house is well placed, they keep reactivating that happiness, joy, yoga every time they exchange a car and get a new car. So this is something you have to understand. And let's say your fourth house is good, 10 years went by, you gave the car, and let's say I don't want any more cars. I'm done. So then what it does, it just, that particular part, that activation of the fourth house kind of goes to sleep until something else happens. Let's say you bought a new boat 2 years later. Well, again, fourth house is activated. For example, you put money on a credit card. You borrow money. What happens? Sixth house becomes activated. You would notice this, okay? Even if most people cannot have a perfect seventh house, seventh lord, and all the fourth house, fourth lord placement, because fourth and seventh house are very important for marriage. And in a female's chart, always look at 11th house, 7th house, and 4th house as well. But whenever you put money on a credit card, somehow, some way, you will have an argument with the spouse. Why? Because 6th house is disputes, enemies, fights, and it's 12th from the 7th house, loss of marriage, harmony, or activation of marriage. So whenever you borrow money, it'll always bring in some sort of a dispute. But then, other than that, wherever the 6th lord is placed, how the 6th lord is, it'll activate that. You get a pet, it'll activate the 6th house. Because pets are 6th house, whether it's dog, cat, you get a bird like a parrot, 6th house is activated. If 6th lord is in the 10th house, well placed. So when you borrowed money, suddenly you see that, oh, I'm doing well in my career. Why? Because you activated your 6th house. And this is why you will see some astrologers advise some people, always have debt in your credit card. Always have some money on a loan. And you will do fine in your money and wealth. Why are they saying? They're looking at the impact of the 6th house in the birth chart. What will borrowing money will do? Some people borrow money. Like, let's say you borrow a good chunk of money. Okay. And this is not money that you are borrowing for, like, let's say a car or a home. No, because that's a fixed asset. That is a fixed asset. So you only look at the 4th house of fixed asset. But if you're just going to borrow money that, hey, give me money to open a business, or give me money because I need to pay for some medical bill. You go to some company, loan, whatever these cash advance companies are, they'll give you a loan at like 30% interest. That is what activates the 6th house. You get into a fight with someone, that's a physical fight, 6th house is activated. And if 6th, the Lord is in the 8th house and not a good position with borrowing money, one can suddenly get a surgery. There could be sudden issues with inheritance. You just have to look at the impact, and you have to know, and this is, now you can go into a 2nd or 3rd level of astrology where you have to kind of know the yoga. What is yoga being created with this particular planet? Because it's a 6th lord in the 8th house or 7th house. Okay, so what yoga is activated? Okay, so this yoga is activated. So everything in your life, okay, everything in your life activates something. If you, let's say, buy a book, you activate the 3rd house. Wherever the 3rd lord is, those things will be activated. And the moment you borrow that money, that becomes the first year from that point onwards. But again, this can become very complicated because some people may put money on a credit card, pay it off, and not use it for 6 months, then put some money on the credit card. So this part can be quite tricky. But certain things, just look at the basic things: buying a car, buying a house, birth of children, getting a pet. You're not going to get pets every 3 months, 4 months. Okay. Let's say, for example, you went on a pilgrimage, on some journey, some religious or spiritual journey. Ninth house becomes activated. So that's the first year after that pilgrimage. And so when somebody goes on a pilgrimage, you can see, okay, fourth year from this pilgrimage, you're actually going to go to foreign lands. And it's going to be due to career. Why? Because 10th Lord is sitting in the 12th house. 4 places away from the 9th house is the 12th house. So that's 4 years. So start looking at all these things. Like, for example, if your 10th house is well placed, okay, 10th house is well placed. Third Lord, 10th house is well placed, so your career is strong, okay? But let's say your younger sibling has a surgery. They had to get a surgery. Whether it was a tooth surgery, whether they had to get a surgery on a hand or something, or in their stomach, or let's say your younger sibling had a C-section that's cutting open. So that means your 10th house became active. So when your younger sibling has a surgery, your 10th house is well placed, your career will do well. And yes, it can again restart the other aspect of your life. So let's say you bought a house 1 year, start counting from that, and it'll start giving you exactly what's happening in the 4th year, 5th year. But at the same time, let's say you have a child, it's a second child after you purchased a house. Well, then another scenario of your life will be activated simultaneously, because 7th house will be the first year of the second child, 8th house is the second year, 9th house is the third year. So this is why we deal with multiple events in 1 year. It's the dasha, but you can even ignore the dasha. You don't need to look at the dasha, and these small little things will start happening. Like, I know there was this one combination, I forgot, where in the 3rd year, it was the 6th year from childbirth, you built a temple, or you built a temple in your home. So these things, then you have to go look at the finer things in like nakshatra, like you bought a Ganesha. Okay. So let's say with Ketu is sitting in the 10th house, 6th year from, the 5th house is the 10th house. And 10th Lord is in the 4th house with the 9th Lord. So you're setting up a temple. So these are the things you might want to, and sun actually represents temple. So specifically if it's sun, so this is why you need to know what the planet represents, what the houses are representing. So this way you can then see, but all these minute things like you'll do this, you'll do that, will come through practice and knowing what is a combination of building a temple in your home. Then you can say, somebody can build an altar for Christ in their home 4 years after their first child was born. Well, you got to know those subtle things that, okay, 8th Lord is here with this and with this, and this sign, there's something related to religious thing is happening here. So just by saying 4 years after your child was born, you must have had a religious function in your home. Well, they may be like, no, we actually built an altar. Well, you were very close with that prediction. Okay, so start trying this. And those of you who have children, and if you know the basics of astrology, comment below so I can actually see, how well it's working with you guys. And just maybe if you want to put your alignment in, and maybe just put the nakshatra of the planet, maybe I'll comment on it and say, okay, well, no, I think this is supposed to be happening. And I think Sandeep might reply too. because obviously he knows I'm making this video for all of you since he told me to. Okay. So anyway, guys, hopefully this helped. And if you want to know more about this and the deeper side of this, with deeper side of astrology and just learning astrology in a more easy, fun way, check out my links at maghavediciastrologyacademy.com, or just go to my website, astrologycares.com. It has the link there. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.